Today's video will be continuing World War VII in our World of KaiserOst series. And as you know, nothing really much has been happening since it went to stalemate at the end of the war after they've conquered all of Europe, Arabia, minus Britain, also conquered North Africa. But quickly today, two nations join with the goal of bringing back control. One, expanding Venezuela, the other taking back its homeland, Brazil. Well, they did not land in Mexico, but so Venezuela quickly moves in like that, with North Brazil and Venezuela quickly taking them out, but then they get like that. And American plus Canadian plus Mexican plus South Brazilian troops arrive to the border, and there's too many for them to stop. Well, they quickly get kicked out. While Venezuela falls, along with southern Brazil losing most of its key territories. Within weeks, these two nations collapsed, with them now having taken over all of North America, preventing future problems there. But they did not predict one thing: Central African Federation joining, with their forces being very successful. In the battlefield of Egypt in the Egypt campaign, they managed to quickly take lands. As they start deciding to push, Egypt back. Which the amount of success they have was not guessed to happen. And then they make a campaign into Cameroon, mostly to secure the border territories. They move south into Mozambique area. They decide to focus on this front now that they got the northern fronts more stalemated. They get pushed back, but there's not enough forces to hold them back forever. With this being a shock on the front. But I mean, it's not too unexpected. With Zambia not having enough forces, so they crumble. Quickly them in Zimbabwe crumble. And with the amount of troops being in the hundreds of thousands on this front versus a few 100,000, it's about 900,000 versus 600,000. Angola is running into problems as they get pushed down the coast. But then they push back and counter-offensive. And while Turkey reinitiates the Egypt campaign at this point, seeing how bad it's been going in the south, as they go move down the Nile River. Within the south, they start pulling troops back to make it harder for them to launch counter-offensives. Why would they do that? Well, it makes sense. Because that's their best maneuver to make land gains. So they go ahead with it. Well, the African front has turned bad for them and allies. Egypt is about to crumble, and it was the strongest nation in this region. Second strongest, likely, but that's besides the point. As they quickly connect these two fronts, making encirclements. With the Egypt front eventually being stabilized by Canada and allies. With them launching a counter-offensive. Which does this. Which doesn't achieve enough. And India decides to join the war. Yes, India's entry into the war. As India's entry in the war shocks the West. Because they were thinking India was more neutral and done expanding into Pakistan. But no, they start a third war against Pakistan. Yeah, they must just like invading Pakistan, as they quickly capitulate the nation, which has been crumbling since the last war. And now Azerbaijan and Armenia are forced into the war. As Russia wants to expand into it. And well, the red team then sees the Balkan Pact as a threat. Which is kind of funny, because, well, they get paranoid at this point, so they're just invading nations. If there's any sense for a reason to bring it in, well, they do it. And well, Hungary, Greece, Bulgaria, and Albania didn't expect it, with Turkey pushing in, quickly taking Istanbul, with Ukraine moving down into Russia moving into Dobrogea, and southern Hungary is invaded by Italy and Germany, with Italy invading Albania, and well, Greece lands in Anatolia fall, and well, the full front line goes down. With Russian troops moving into Hungary, and Hungary decides to surrender. With Albania crumbling, followed by Bulgaria's surrender, followed by Greece's defeat. Which happened pretty fast. With the offensive being planned to take all the major cities of it, which they encircle like Rabat and other cities on the coast, and they quickly manage to capture a lot of them as they take all of Morocco's coast. With Morocco surrendering, followed by an invasion, the expansion of the war in Algeria, which leads to Algeria collapsing. And well, now war breaks out down here in the Botswana, with the counter-offensives being weak in this area and not doing what they should. And so they move another offensive into South Africa, which these nations are weakened from World War VI. Yeah, World War VI. South Africa surrenders, and a quick invasion of the Cape takes place. Quickly into Namibia, as American forces are trying to hold off North Africa, they end up losing South Africa. The southern part of Africa, which means that all these troops can move up there, as they are starting to lose on all the fronts in the new world, in the old world. They're becoming more and more. With the Imperium deciding to invade into the West African Union, which doesn't go so well. So they decide maybe their best bet is to go into Chad. Why? Because, well, if they do that, they then have an ability to invade more, connecting this front up, meaning no aid can get into these areas. Well, their spearhead goes pretty well. Until surrender happens and they take all the places prisoner. And then, well, they move in and start moving deeper into the empire, the West African Union, with the soldiers being forced down to the water to defend their country, with American soldiers and Canadian being forced to start leaving, as most of them are over there. Well, the West African Union is forced into surrender, but quickly they manage to hold right here, which is pretty good. And then they move in to occupy the Cape, which is also good. They think they can hold it, but not long after, these two areas they invaded are kicked out. And well, I would say expansion of this war again is likely. As a decision is made. Well, I don't know. They're planning on, after they finish off the Democrat League, to go after the Asian Democratic League, the Asian Defense Treaty Organization, is their next plan. But let's see, will they fail to get over there and go there too, and then get a peace treaty because they conquer half the world? Or will they give up, giving them half the world? Let's see in the next video. That's all for today's video. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe. Bye, guys!